the semi-hard vibe on another. Junkie crawl from Reflection Swimmer.
Turning, there he goes. Bang.
And g'day, my name is Luke and this is my wife Jen. And here are our two growing boys, Liam and Elliot. We've been fishing, boating and exploring the pristine waters of the Fraser Coast for about 10 years now. So subscribe and come join the adventure. Rightio, so I'm pre-rigging ready for tomorrow morning. I'm going through and retying all the leaders on the rods I'll be using. I'm taking 3 rods for flathead fishing. That's my primary target tomorrow. And then I've got a slightly heavier stick that I'm going to take that's going to have a surface popper on it, because I'm going to throw that across some of the rock ledges as that first light comes up to try and score a queenfish or something. And I've also got the heavier tuna stick with me because we're coming into longtail season here on the Fraser Coast. And if I see any of those bad boys around the area, I want to be rigged up ready to have a cast. 3 flathead rods. One will be for casting a soft plastic. I'm going to start with a 3-inch junkie crawl from Reflection Swim Baits. I'm also going to throw my little atomic vibe, the semi-hards vibe, on another. And then the third one is a mystery lure, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. Using a 1/4 ounce jig head with a size 1 hook for the soft plastic. 1/4 ounce jig head, a lot of people say that might be a little bit too heavy because I'm going to be fishing in sort of 30 centimeters through to about 2 or 3 meters. Probably is a little bit heavy when you think about sink rate, but what I'm really trying to achieve is to take advantage of distance. I really want to be able to cast a long way away from the boat, away from any noise, right up into the shallows. It's just one of the things I found really effective, is having that advantage of distance, so the fish have no chance, well, very little chance of seeing that I'm there. The atomic semi-hards is also quite a heavy lure. I'll have to check the exact weight for you, but that casts a mile as well. So I'm really looking forward to casting it miles out and taking advantage of that distance. So that's the junkie crawl from Reflection Swim Baits. You would have seen these in previous videos. Yeah, I find these very effective on flathead. They almost look like a little yabby or a grub getting around in the shallows, and I find them particularly effective at this time of year. Before low tide, fishing a nice big stretch of mud, shale, sort of sand flats, all the way from Kingfisher Bay Resort all the way down towards Ungower, and there's just a multitude of drains, creek mouths, gravel patches, yabby beds, coffee rock, you name it. You just have to spend a bit of time along those stretches and you'll find those areas. They're really good areas to fish. They don't necessarily always have fish sitting on one patch. I find the fish move with the tide and stuff a fair bit, and it's sort of like they station themselves at different positions, and you can go to one day and they'll be stacked up in that location. You go back there the next day, they won't be there. They'll be in another one a little bit further up or a bit further down or whatever. So whoever figures out how fish think will be a millionaire, I reckon. This particular drain here, I don't know how well the camera will show it, but there's actually a couple of birds working it. So there's obviously some bait in there already, and the birds are sort of circling around trying to pick the bait off. So I figure this is a good one to fish, because if there's bait there, hopefully there'll be a predator there. And then I'll give this sort of 10-15. Don't have any luck, I'll move up to the next one, move up to the next one, move up to the next one until I find a fish.
So you see that bird, there was a second one here a little while ago, and they're really right up in these shallows diving. You can see he's seen something now. He's turning, there he goes, bang. So there's clearly some bait right up in there, and that's where I want to cast. So I'm just trying to use the Minn Kota to position me within range. I've got a little bit of a breeze pushing against me, so there's that second bird. The breeze is pushing a little bit left to right, so I'm going to have to cast and hopefully push it into that area myself. Now just because there's bait there doesn't necessarily mean there will be fish, but there's just a higher probability of it. So rid the junky craw and those craw sort of type lures. Oh, that was a tap. Another tap. They do have quite a big profile when you're trying to cast them, so they do. That's quite a big profile to catch in the wind, so they can be a little bit tricky to get distance on. I don't know what those taps were. I do find in these creeks and drains you'll also find a lot of bream, and that's quite often what you get these little taps from, is the bream. You watch, it'll be when I turn the camera off. Always happens. I could put money on it. I'll turn the camera off to save battery at some point, and that's when I'll get the strike. I didn't know what that was for a second. I just felt this really light touch. Struck. And then it just started running. So a bit of life in there. Well, that was really, I sort of cast up this little gutter and hopped it, and then I felt this little tap, and I thought it might have been a snag or something, so I pulled a little harder, and then it just took off. I thought, oh, it's a stingray, and I started winding it in, and it wasn't really fighting, and then all of a sudden a big head shake started, and then I just saw a flash of it as she turned, and there you go, folks. Nice big 66 centimetre Fraser Coast flathead, taken right up here on the shallows along Fraser Island. Took the reflection swim baits junky craw. So my plan for flathead fishing worked this morning. I threw the soft plastic for a bit, didn't have any luck, threw the vibe, and then went back to the soft plastic, and boom. We're about an hour before low tide, so whether that makes a difference I'm not quite sure. This one is going to swim away. Breeding season, I can tell she's full of roe, and we'll get it back in the water. They generally release really well. I've already got a couple of flathead out of home, so don't crucify me for letting go a good feed, but she can go breed, and never know, I might catch her another day. Okay, so she swam off really strong. Swam her for a little bit. You'll see it in the footage. Hopefully it'll show in the footage when I'm doing the release. That swim them for a little bit, and then they'll really give a couple of big kicks when they're ready to go. Just make sure they're revived, plenty of oxygen getting through their gills, and then they'll let you know when they're ready to go. And she certainly was ready to go. Now after any fish, really, you should check your knots and your lure for any damage, and pay particular attention when you, especially with soft plastics and flathead, pay particular attention around your loop knot. It'll be hard to see in this camera, but it's actually quite scuffed up along there, basically from the loop knot right to where the knot is, and the lure itself has been twisted a bit.
So I'll need to reseat the hook and retie that loop knot to make sure another fish like that doesn't bust me off. I actually felt during the fight, I could feel a couple of times like the line was tight, and then you'd feel a sort of like a little pop. And that's them when they're trying to get you up in their gill rakers. They're shaking their head and they try and get you caught up on their gill rakers. And that's why you need a good quality leader for these larger flathead. Because once they get you on those gill rakers, they're super sharp. Anybody who's been cut by a flathead in your hand and stuff, you'll bleed like nobody's business, and they're super sharp. So definitely things to check before you go for round 2. Alright folks, I'm done for the day. The wind was meant to pick up around lunchtime. It's going to be coming straight from the north and blowing 20 to 25 knots. It's only 9 AM and that wind's already starting to pick up. I can feel it starting to pick up already. And there's nothing worse than being caught in those deep water channels in the Great Sandy Strait when you've got a northerly blowing and when it's up around that 20 knot mark. So I'm going to head back in now. I hope this video today was useful in some way. Only the one fish, but a good fish, and it took the soft plastic over the vibe. That's just how it rolls some days. Some days they'll take the vibe and not the soft plastic. Who knows? But a good fish nonetheless. So take care. Please log on and off with the VMR if you are heading out on the water this weekend. Keep an eye on that weather. This time of year it can change very, very quickly, so just keep an eye on that. Okay, all the best. Hope to see you out in the water one day, and take care.